This is Think Out Loud on OPB. I'm Dave Miller. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the number of professional tailors, dressmakers, and seamstresses dropped 30% from 2014 to 2024. And among people who are still in the profession, the median age is 54, meaning unlike other skilled labor industries, young people are not really replacing the ranks of people who are leaving. We're going to get two Portland perspectives on the present and the future of this industry right now. Stephanie Mendes is a dressmaker and the owner of Love Stephanie Apparel. She's also an instructor at the Portland Fashion Institute. Mackinley James does custom sewing as Whoopi the Fibrarian. It's great to have both of you on the show.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you for having us.
Stephanie, first, what was your path to becoming a seamstress and a clothing maker, fashion designer?
Well, I started, I guess, as a child being interested in fashion and different things, artistic and creative. My mother was a very creative person, and as well as my grandmother, and always taught me to try something new. If I wanted to make something, just try it.
Did that extend to making clothing when you were a kid?
Yes, we used to make things for Halloween costumes, and like my prom dress. And
what was your prom dress like?
It was pink. Actually, it was very different from the other friends that were my age that went to the prom. Back in the 80s, the prom dresses were shiny and poofy sleeves and, all things frilly and, puffy. But mine was quite sleek, actually. It was strapless, made out of silk charmeuse, and it was like a sleek silhouette that sort of was actually pretty simple. It didn't have a lot of ruffles to it. So,
what did people think of it?
Of course they loved it.
I mean, because
I wish I still had it.
I imagine, you showed up in this fabulous handmade by you outfit, and probably nobody else at the prom was wearing something that they'd made themselves.
No, I don't think so. Most people got their prom dresses at the mall. And mine was made. Well, my mother made it, but I helped her make it.
Okay,
Yes.
but you saw that culture of and grew up in a house where making clothing was even a possibility. You didn't have to go to the mall. You could see something made in front of you, and then you could wear it and learn how to make it yourself.
Correct. Yes.
Mackinley, what about you? How did you end up in this world?
So I actually have a fine art background. I have a BFA in sculpture and drawing, and then went on to get a master's degree in fiber art. My sewing journey started about 20 years ago, watching my mom sew all sorts of things, be it for things at school that I was a part of or items to sell. She actually had a very thriving stuffed animal business for quite a few years that she did all the sewing herself. So my sewing journey really took off when I was in school, and I was actually studying the ideas behind transitional objects. Whoopi actually means comfort item or transitional object. So I was studying Whoopies and creating different items of comfort from different materials. So sometimes they were a little bit backwards. So I made a jacket, but it was made out of paper. Therefore, it was very uncomfortable, and did a performance video around that. But then would also do arm knitting and large scale installations where the entire room became comfortable. So that's kind of the journey of how I got into sewing. And eventually I started working in the world of luxury linens and selling those, but I became very disappointed in the quality of the items that we were being sold. So I started sewing bedding and home decor and responding to the craft that I was seeing come out of these very expensive companies. And then once COVID hit, I was basically sewing full time at night after my full-time job. And that gave me the leap to be self-employed.
So after your full-time job, sewing for
Yes.
hours at night doing sort of piecework for extra money?
It was piecework, it was custom work. I was also sewing cosplay at the time for different friends. Uh, Basically, any sewing job that people had that they, trusted me with, I was excited to take on. Um, and that's how we got here.
It's a fascinating. It's a different story than what we heard from Stephanie. Yours is going from sort of this high concept, high art world, and then, in a sense, learning a high level craft and parlaying that now into a very different kind of job. What does your job entail now? The sort of the meat and potatoes of it.
So the meat and potatoes of my job now is actually bridal. While I still do home decor, that's definitely on the side. And even though where I started is so much different than where I am now, I see a lot of similarities. Uh, Sewing someone's, wedding dress for alterations or even custom, it's a very intimate process. You have to be comfortable with each other or else it's not going to work. So not only are we creating the garment that you're going to wear on one of the biggest days of your life, not the biggest, but one of them, we are making that item so that you feel comfortable in that very special moment while also creating a comfortable environment to work together.
Stephanie, you were nodding a little bit there. What's the focus of your business these days?
Very similar to Mackinley. I do quite a bit of bridal alterations and custom sewing. But I'm also working on a collection for an upcoming fashion show in October. This show is called Fashion Next. And I'm developing a 9 or 10 piece collection to show. So I'm simultaneously working on that.
And that would be sort of high end, ready to wear pieces as opposed to custom pieces.
Exactly. Yeah, the pieces that I decided to create and to design, not for a customer. I have my ideal customer in mind, of course, when I'm doing this, but it's not for someone specific. But I also do other custom work besides bridal. It's mostly special occasion apparel for ladies. I'm making a beautiful tailored suit for a woman who's going to a wedding. And one great project that I have, I am creating 9 bridesmaids dresses for a bridal party out of kimonos. So I'm taking these kimonos that are from Japan, that the bride provided me with the kimonos, and transforming each kimono into a dress or a skirt for the 9 bridesmaids.
And a project like that, did the bride come to you with this in mind, or was this sort of a conversation, like how can we make something special?
The bride came to me, and she found me, Googled me or Googled local dressmaker, and came across my profile and contacted me, and she had the idea, and I was the one she chose to execute the idea. 9
bridesmaids.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Actually, one dropped out, so
okay, down to
I
8.
correct that, 8. Yes.
Mackinley, am I right in assuming that one of the big reasons that bridal work figures so prominently for both of you is that that's where the money is? That's a place where, in our culture, people are willing to spend what it takes to have an actual human who lives in their neighborhood do dozens of hours of work and pay for it. That's where the money is.
I am definitely seeing that to be true. When it comes to your special day, I find that everyone is willing to put down what is necessary to have exactly what they want and feel perfectly comfortable and beautiful. So between, bridal and the home decor for me, that is where I'm finding, everyone is willing to pay for what they want. I don't necessarily see that so much in, general alterations.
It's fascinating that the thing about bridal is it's sort of making something wonderful and beautiful essentially for one day. Maybe it can be altered and your kid can use it 30 years from now, but for the most part, we're talking about one day. And home decor it's almost the opposite. It's like, I'm willing to pay for something because I will have this for decades. But the in-between is where so many of us have so much stuff, and so much of it is, even though it's still made by people in some factory that we will probably never see, it's cheaper than it's ever been in human history. In general, clothing now at the cheapest level is way cheaper than anything that any human in history has had access to. Yeah. Stephanie, how do you think about what that has done to the way we, just as in general, as people think about the value of clothing?
Wow, that's a big question. I don't know if I have the answer to that, but I'll give it a shot. I think that it sort of depends on how you view it. Some people don't care. They just think I'll put on the cheapest thing I can find and nobody's going to notice. Or they just don't care. But some people really take value in it and take value in what they're wearing and their appearance and the quality of their clothing and where it's been made. And I feel like, when you're wearing something really well made and that makes you look good and it fits well, that it brings you a certain confidence. It brings you walk into the room and people might not notice what you're wearing. Hopefully they do, but they notice your total persona. So I think that, bringing the humanity back into, what we're wearing, how we present ourselves, I hope that it comes back to not being cheap about it. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it totally does.
It's a big issue.
Mackinley, same sort of huge version of the question for you, but I guess, the short version is how you think fast fashion that churns out clothing at incredibly cheap prices, how it affects the way so many of us think about just the value of clothing.
Absolutely. I think that, seeing that cheaper price tag, a lot of people forget that there were two hands that made that item to begin with. We are in a society now where everything can be pretty immediate. How many of us can place an Amazon order and it's at our door within a couple hours? I'm sure that at some point or another, we all forget that there was someone who took that order off the computer, packaged it, and then put it on a truck where somebody drove it to our house. Yes, that is changing rapidly too, but someone still delivered that package. It's the same with our clothing. No matter how cheap the price tag, there is someone somewhere out there who made those pants. And what I'm seeing now is that when people forget about that and, say they need their jeans hemmed because they are just a tad too long, they come in for the consultation to figure out how much needs to be taken off and what is the cost. More often than not, you hear, well, that costs more than the pants originally cost. And sadly, that is true. But the thing of it is, there is still a person, either myself, Stephanie, or whoever is in this industry taking on that work, that has to make that alteration for you.
I'm curious, not long ago we talked about the rise in thrifting among young people and interest in clothing from, anywhere from, a month earlier to 50 years earlier. Has that led to an increase in requests for alterations or an increase in people willing to actually pay for alterations, even if, as you're saying, the alterations might cost more than the garment that they bought, at Goodwill?
That's a good question. And my dad is actually in the vintage industry. He works out of Cincinnati, Ohio, with a 10,000 square foot warehouse, primarily focusing in 1970s, but also dead stock concert tees.
I didn't know that.
I hear from,
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, what I hear from him, people are willing to make alterations to those pieces should it not decrease the value of the item.
Hmm.
Same if you pick up a piece of vintage furniture and you decide to strip off the original patina, all of a sudden that item is not worth what you thought it was. Um, but what he is telling me is that people are willing to mend and repair items, that have maybe just a piece that needs a little bit of love and care.
Hmm.
So I do see that in my line of work, especially when brides are bringing in their mother's vintage wedding dress. They are definitely willing to put in the time and care that's necessary to keep that item going, even if it's just for one more day.
I'm talking right now about sewing and tailoring and custom clothing making with two master sewists. Mackinley James is known as Whoopi the Fibrarian. Stephanie Mendes is the owner of Love Stephanie Apparel. She's also an instructor at the Portland Fashion Institute. Stephanie, how do you make sense of that stat I mentioned earlier from some federal labor numbers? A 30% drop in people doing what you and Mackinley do in just 10 recent years.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty astonishing. But it's believable. I feel like being in this industry, being a sewist or a tailor or a dressmaker, whatever you want to call it, I feel that it's not easy. It's not an easy job. It takes a lot of skill. It takes time and perseverance, making mistakes. And I feel that maybe younger people don't have the patience for that or don't have the attention span for this type of career. Some do, of course, but I feel like with all that's going on with AI and, cell phones and the computer and the screens and, TikTok and people and, like Mackinley was talking about, having that immediate satisfaction of getting something within a few hours, taking that step back to take your time to do something and create something, I feel like it's sort of a dying art.
Concentration.
It takes so much to
Patience and
actually
craft.
take something from a two-dimensional piece of fabric or a pattern and actually creating something that's wearable that you can walk out and, it's not going to fall apart.
And it'll look good.
And look good. Exactly. Maybe be a little bit
Step
different.
one, don't
and
fall
fit.
apart. Step two, actually be better than anything else.
Right. So, I try to teach my sewing students that, this takes patience. It's not just like Project Runway where, in an hour you go from zero to runway. That's just not reality. And if you want to be in this industry, even if it's just as a hobby, you really need that perseverance, that attention to detail, that, all of the things. Be willing to make mistakes. So I feel like younger generation maybe doesn't quite understand that it is a viable position, a job to have, and you can earn a living, but it takes a little bit of a different personality to be able to do it successfully.
Mackinley, I mean, one of the interesting paradoxes there that Stephanie was getting to is she's talking about the generational challenges she sees. And I hear the latest generation there, your 7-month-old
Yes.
chiming in. But
Of course,
but,
yes, we're having a bottle right now.
oh, good. But at the same time, I've read that jobs like sewing and tailoring or being plumbers or electricians, these things, unlike being a lawyer, being a computer programmer, being a copywriter for some ad agency, those are the jobs AI is coming for first. And it's so far, it's hard to see how AI is going to replace your physical job. What kind of a pitch would you make for young people today who may not be thinking about sewing or tailoring, but you're pitched for why they should think about it?
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's a really good question, and I'm staring at my 7-month-old son right now thinking, if this child doesn't know how to at least sew a button on his pants, I'm going to be so terribly disappointed. I think that there is a really beautiful rebellion that can be found in the way that we're currently living and slowing down to actually make that item you want to wear. When everything is so fast, it's very easy to just, jump in the same boat with a lot of other people, get that item really quickly, do whatever you plan to do with it and move on. There is a rebellion in being able to slow down in such a fast society, look at your hands, create something from your mind, watching it come from your brain through your hands and out into fruition. It's just such a beautiful thing that I hope we don't lose. I know that with ChatGPT and AI, everything's become so easy and a lot of people just don't want to think anymore. But as soon as we give that up, we really give it up. We lose it. So if we can, continue this making process and hopefully pass it on to younger generations who sadly probably didn't grow up with it. I feel very fortunate to have grown up in a very creative family that, was constantly making. So I got to witness it firsthand. I'm hoping that having my son at home with me and him not only watching me make everything, but watching the interactions with these people and how happy it makes them to have such a custom piece, I hope that instills in him something in the future that he will want to continue making in whatever way that looks like.
At what age do you expect him to be able to put his own button back on his pants?
Oh, maybe like first grade.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay. Mackinley James and Stephanie Mendes, thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Yes, thank you.
Mackinley James is known as Whoopi the Fibrarian. Stephanie Mendes is the owner of Love Stephanie Apparel. Tomorrow on the show, dozens of pharmacies across Oregon have closed in recent years. These closures can be particularly rough on people in rural communities who may have to drive hours to fill prescriptions. We'll hear about a new state grant intended to address this problem through prescription deliveries, secure lockers, and other services. Our production staff includes Malia Fass, Rolly Hernandez, Gemma DiCarlo, senior producer Allison Frost, and managing producer Shiraz Sadiq. Idrissa Guy is our summer intern. Naleen Silva and Layla Isbell engineer the show from the Gert Boyle studio. Our technical director, Stephen Cray, and our executive producer is Sage Van Wink. If you don't want to miss any of our shows, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. Our nightly rebroadcast is at 8 p.m. Thanks very much for tuning in to Think Out Loud on OPB and KLCC. I'm Dave Miller. We'll be back tomorrow.
Think Out Loud is supported by Steve and Jan Oliva, the Rose E. Tucker Charitable Trust, Michael, Kristen, Andrew Kern, and Anna Sanford, the Jackson Foundation, and the Kevin and Amy Constam Family Fund.